Welcome to the Soulfire Podcast, where every day we talk about real life, real shit, real raw. On this show, you can expect us to dive deep into topics like marriage, parenting, money, business, feeling like you want to give up, fighting for yourself, just straight soul healing. This podcast is all about life. Hey there, it's Power Coach Alishia here, your source of fun, funny, exciting, entertaining, and educational life coaching, transformational speaking, and soul healing. We're talking about setting your soul on fire. I specialize in helping women put themselves first without feeling guilty, getting out of their own way, and finding themselves again. No fluff, no hand-holding, no bullshit here, just love, light, and peace as we journey through this thing called life. It's weird because today's one of those days where you want to be sad and depressed and think about all the what ifs and shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and how would my life have ended up if, and I don't do that. Today is September 9th of 2021. And it marks I would have to look at the calendar and count the years. I think it is 16 years, yes, since my dad passed away. And I don't necessarily remember today like it was yesterday. I do, however, remember it really clearly. Today is also the day that I lost, at the time, my favorite brother, like my most favorite brother in the world. And I was really, really angry that I was stuck with my mom. And I chose this as today's topic because I think it's important for you to get an idea of not only how I process and go through these anniversaries that aren't, the most amazing anniversaries, but also some, I guess, other side of information to maybe help you in some of the same situations or similar situations for that fight. Because I know a lot of people that their anniversaries of deaths of someone that they loved, it incapacitates them for a day, sometimes the week, sometimes the month. And that's something that I really want to talk about is, even though whatever that death or whoever that death was, it's horrible and you miss them and you wish they were here and you love them. It's not about stopping life and letting it stop you. It's about feeling through those feelings as well as continuing to move forward. And sometimes I think that these quote unquote negative anniversaries are the beginning of where depression happens for you and where you get stuck, and the place that really started you digging this huge hole that now you can't get back out of. Obviously, it's never just one thing. It's not just the death or the anniversaries of the death. It's definitely the compound effect. But when you sit down and you think about when it started, it's part of the work that we do together in my Soul Circle program and in my one-on-one coaching. We're really working through when it started. Who was there? Who was part of it? What were the details? Because that helps us streamline and catapult you to releasing it. But if you don't know when it started and where it came from, then you can't get to the part of releasing it. So back to September 9th of 1995. I remember that one of my aunts, I think, or maybe my grandma, I can't remember. Oh, and this day also marks the end of an entire family that I knew. My whole life growing up to 12 years old, they were the only family that I knew. And so not only did I lose my dad, I lost my most favorite brother in the world. I was left with my horribly mean mother, and I lost the entire family that I ever knew. My aunts, my uncles, my cousins, all of the people who were my foundation of my life. Okay, let's resume. So I can't remember who's sitting on the edge of the bed. I want to say it's my Aunt Debbie, but it could be my Grandma Sharon. I can't see their face, and I just don't remember. And my dad's laying there. I mean, everybody's there because they know that he's going to die today. I think the home health nurse says, call everybody, get them all here. He's not going to make it another 24 hours. So my house is full of people. Weirdly enough, my personal energy is more excited because everybody's around. I get to see all these people. My dad's family's there, which I didn't grow up with. They all flew in from Tennessee and St. Louis, and so they're there. My mom's family's there, and then my step family, or my family that I ever knew, is there. So just the house is so full. And we're sitting on the edge of the bed, and he's just laying there. And his breathing is starting to slow down. So I say to my aunt or my grandma, I think his breathing is starting to slow down. And when we're in this room, I'm not excited. The energy leading up to this moment, I was excited. But at this point, I'm crying with her, and we're talking about memories of my dad. And I'm telling her that, it seems like he's not breathing as well as he was. And she said, Lita Poo, which is what she used to call me, or my whole family used to call me, either Pumpkin or Lita Poo, that, he was, going. And so now was my time to give him a hug and a kiss and tell him that I loved him. And so I did. And she said, okay, now you need to leave the room. And she didn't want me in there because she didn't want me to see him take his last breath. And so I left the room, and then I don't remember who went in next. I think it was my mom because he was almost dead. So I think my mom went in next. And then once he actually did die, it was interesting how the different cultures handled the situation. So my dad's family was like screaming and yelling and laying out on the floor and like crying out in pain and agony, which he wasn't close to them. But, to each their own. And then, pretty much everybody else was just crying and sobbing. I guess, I don't know. I don't know if it's the African American culture and the Caucasian culture. I don't know. I don't know what the difference is, but everybody else was just pretty much grieving more silently. That's the only way I know how to explain it. And right before I went into the room originally, my favorite brother offered to go to the airport to pick up my grandma Ruby, which was my dad's mom. Nobody else, had said anything. So he was like, oh yeah, I'll go. And so he leaves to go to the airport. And this is why my dad died so fast. We were all there to say goodbyes and whatever, but it went really fast. And because my mom had gone in there and said, just so you know, your mom's at the airport. Gino went to get her and she'll be here soon. And he was dead within 15 minutes of that because he didn't want to see her. And so when Gino left to go get my grandma Ruby, he never got to say goodbye. So that sent him on this life path and spiral that, he never came back from. And so it caused me to have to separate myself from him because that was just protection of me. Anytime addiction is involved and that person is not on a path to make themselves better and come back from that or heal from that, I believe you can't be in their life because they just drag you down and tear your life apart, even if you aren't, going along with them and part of what they're a part of. So that day, I didn't realize it, but I did lose my brother that day. But I didn't even know I had lost him. I had gone on to track him down whenever I could. This was before the internet was around, and find him and show up and make plans with him and spend time with them. And then one day I finally realized that he was a drug addict. And that's why he would make plans with me and bail, or I would show up at 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon and the adults would be sleeping. And there were a whole bunch of things that really led to me realizing that he wasn't going to be able to be a part of my life anymore. So then the family that I was telling you about, the only family I ever knew, my aunts, uncles, cousins, grandma, all those people, they weren't my real family. They weren't my blood family. They were my soul family, right? But they weren't my blood family because my papa, which is my mom's dad, married my grandma Sharon, who had all of these kids. And so when my papa married my grandma Sharon, he moved to Utah. And when my mom found out, or once my mom was about 5 months pregnant with me, she decided I wouldn't be raised in, that culture and that world and the ghetto and all those things. So she moved from St. Louis, Missouri to Utah to be close to her dad. And so by default, all of my grandma Sharon and all of her kids and their kids became my aunts, uncles, and siblings, plus my grandma Sharon. That's just how it was. That's all I ever knew. All my baby pictures are with all these people. My grandma Sharon would dress me like her. She would make me clothes. She was my grandma all the way up. And then my dad died, and it broke a link. I think there was only 2 links in this chain. My dad and my papa. So when my dad died, it broke one of the links, but it was still holding on, right? And then, so that was 1995. And then in 2003, my papa died, there is an 8-year difference, but those 8 years were it was such a struggle for the family to stay together. They didn't really want us around. They didn't really want us coming to dinner. They didn't really want us hanging out. They would make plans without us there. It would make my papa so angry. It was just a whole complete shit show, and it was horrible. He might have died in 2004 or 5 or 6, 4 or 5. I don't know. I don't remember. And so I lost my family, and why am I telling you this? Well, first and foremost, I'm not sure. And that's just me being completely honest with you. When I was thinking about what my podcast topic would be today, because I usually record 2 in one day, I was like, I have no clue what the fuck to talk about. And then I was like, okay, well, what date will this podcast come out? For whatever reason, that was the next question I was led to. I was like, oh, September 9th. I know exactly what I'm going to talk about. I'm not quite sure at this very second of this recording how this helps you, but it'll come to me, and the power that it needs to deliver will be there, or maybe it will just be whatever it is. But it's really interesting when I look back at my life and all the people that I've lost that aren't even dead. I did a Facebook post not too long ago that said, people used to always say that friends come and go, but no one ever said that it would be your family. And I've lost a lot of family. I've obviously buried 2 dads. You know that from the introduction episode if you listen to it. If you haven't listened to it, I highly recommend you go all the way back to the very first episode that I posted, because it's really a great foundation for this podcast. My heart and soul, where I come from, and just the foundation that sets why I'm so wise to be able to give you all this information and this power and show up the way that I do when I haven't been, to some school or training or whatever. This just came from me. This episode is brought to you by 90 Day Shift. The time is now to step up and take control of your life. It's time for you to stop sabotaging yourself, being everything to everyone, and shift your life from the shit shows to the rainbows so that you can live your life connected, energized, and excited. I want you to think about when you first started out in life, or as far back as you can remember. You were like a kid in a candy store with all the possibilities that there were for you, the opportunities of what you could be, what you could do, what you could have, the dreams and goals that you had. You just knew your life was going to be amazing and that you were going to live your passion and make all of your dreams come true. And you probably even started out that way, on the path to making that life happen. But then what happened? People started telling you that you need to be more level-headed. You need to get a job so that you can pay your bills. You started settling for the path to make ends meet, which made you stop pursuing your dreams and your passion and what you thought you wanted to do and what lit you up and what gave you that fire. And you stopped doing the things that make you happy. And life got busy. Things started getting in the way. You put you on hold. You started making compromises about who you are and what you loved doing, what you stood for. And so now you're struggling to figure out what to do and asking yourself things like, how the hell did I get here? Why can't I set goals and actually achieve them? What the hell is it that I want to do? Who the hell am I? And is this how my life is always going to be? And then you're also saying to yourself, I don't know how much longer I can live like this. And that's exactly why I created my 90-day shift program for people like you who are exhausted, overwhelmed, feeling like there has to be more to their life than this, struggling to find time and feeling like they're running like a chicken with its head cut off here, there, doing this, doing that, being everything for everyone. And when you look in the mirror, you don't even recognize yourself. This program is 100% for you if you feel like you're ready to shift into creating harmony in your life with everything you have on your plate, connecting with yourself on a soul level, creating a personal growth plan that is vital to your health and quality of life, creating space every single day for you, learning to trust yourself, making room for all the good to come to you, figuring out what your passion is and going for it, having you back and letting go all of the shit that's been holding you back for however long you've been in this place. All so that you can finally find yourself again. To learn more and sign up, go to 90dayshift.life. Again, that's 90dayshift.life. When I look back, how many people that I've lost that aren't even dead. And the thing that's interesting is that it doesn't make any sense. I get it. The fucking assholes that, are not good for you and they're toxic and whatever. Those people make sense. But when people just randomly disappear and you don't understand why, it doesn't ever make sense. It's never easy. It never is easy or to deal with or to process through. And the truth is that family and I live in the same town, and I'll see a few of them, but I don't see most of them. When I do see them, I get this weird look like I'm doing something wrong and I know better. Like they look at me like that. I don't know how to explain it, but I think you'll probably understand what I mean. I don't know. It's almost like you know better than that. You shouldn't be doing that. And it doesn't matter where I see them. Like, saw them at Payless, saw them at the restaurant. One of them, I feel I'm like they miss me. And there's like a genuine emotion there. But the other one is constantly like she's looking down her nose at me. And I don't ever see, I don't know. But anyways, the same little town that we live in. And I see him maybe once every 6 months to a year, but not all of them. I only see one of them every 6 months to a year. And it's just so weird. It's like, what the fuck happened? And when you deal with a loss like this, it is almost like you're going through that grieving process. Is it 9 steps to grieving? It's like you're going through all of those steps, but the people didn't die. So when the anniversary of my dad's death comes around every single year, to me, it's almost easier to process through anything that may come up for me during that time. And like, let those feelings be what they are and, think the way I think. I usually don't cry. Sometimes I do, but most times I don't. But when I think about the family that I've lost, that pain is not necessarily heavy. It's just a stronger pain than I feel like the death is, because the death is so like finite. It's something that you know for sure they're never coming back in the lifetime that you know, or if they do, you won't know that it's them, sort of thing. So you can have that closure. But when you lose people who are still alive, that process tends to be a little bit different. I think you still go through the grief stages, and you still need to release. There's still that process of releasing all of the sadness and the anger and, the not understanding why and all of that stuff. You're still going through all of that. It just feels different when you think about those people and you're processing through that. I was talking about, I don't know, a few weeks ago about the fact that I lost the only sister that I have ever known, like the closest person I've ever been to. And my brother, who's my stepbrother, who I've always called my brother since I was 15 years old, in the same year. And I almost lost my marriage in that same year. And that's what sparked the post that, friends and family, da da da. And so when I'm just kind of sitting here talking to you and thinking about this day that my dad died, you just never realize the chain of events that person leaving the earth sets off. A lot of times you're so wrapped up in the fact that that person will no longer be there that you don't realize how much your life is going to change in that future. It changes drastically, and it not necessarily saying, oh, it's so bad and it's so horrible and da 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 da, because I just don't believe that. Right? My life is different because my dad died when I was 12 years old, and I would never say that different is bad. I know that my life would have been completely different if he was alive, because he would have never let me develop any sort of connection or relationship with Daniel, my current husband. So he would have never let any of that happen. I would have never maybe have met him, but I would have never married my ex-husband, because I wouldn't have been allowed to be in those situations to where I would have wanted to marry him. I don't know, my dad, he just wouldn't have allowed it. So my path in my life would have been completely different. I think that if my family, who really, I guess, just disappeared, if they would have stayed, my life would have been much different, because they would be an active part of my life still today. So I don't know if I would have ever moved to Florida. Like, there's so many things that have happened on this journey. I do my best to never live in I wish I could have, should have, would have, because that changes everything from that moment forward. And there's always so much like greatness and happiness that comes, that if you should have, could have, would have changed it and would have done something different, then all those things that are positive and good memories, they would be gone. They wouldn't be here. And so I definitely do my best to never live in I wish I would have, should have, could have, would have, right? Because I live there for a second and go, I really wish I would have da 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 da. And then if I would have done that, then everything else would be different. So in the same breath, I coach myself and say, but even if I would have made that decision, then this and this and this and this and this would be different. They might have still happened, but maybe not. And that's just something that we'll never know. So I am grateful for the journey and the lessons that I've learned and the growth that I've had and the power that this has given me and the fight that this has led to, within myself or even with other people to get to this point. So I've learned to take those things and appreciate them so much more, rather than holding on to making that different change or that different decision and being mad that I didn't make the other decision. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So every year, the anniversary of his death comes around, and for the most part, I live life as normal. I won't take days off. I don't stay in bed. The day is just more somber. It automatically is. There hasn't been a year where my anniversary of my dad's death has come around where the day has just been like so excited and happy. Have I been in good moods? Yes. Have I felt good? Yes. But the energy is somber. So even if it doesn't pop up on the calendar, I'm still reminded on how I feel, my energy feels. And last year, I don't know if it was on my dad's birthday. Yeah, it was on my dad's birthday. Daniel was so cute. He bought cinnamon rolls and Pepsi because I have a great story about cinnamon rolls. My dad used to work at Smith's. I think he was a stalker. Stalker. How do you say that without sounding like he was a stalker? Stalker. Okay, anyways. And he would always come home with cinnamon rolls. And he would put these cinnamon rolls in the top of the closet to keep them away from me, of course. But I always knew where they were. And I would get whatever I could to stand up on and just put my hand right over the edge and feel for the cinnamon rolls till I could feel the package. And then I would rip a hole in it and just pull whatever little pieces that I could. So probably the whole fucking half of his container was eaten, but just a quarter of the cinnamon roll. I don't fucking know. But anyway, so I used to always do that. And my dad loved Pepsi and bacon, for breakfast. That's what he would have, would be Pepsi and bacon. And so he did that, and I thought that was really sweet that he did that last year. He didn't let my dad's birthday, day come and go. And I thought that was super cute, of a remembrance. And we'll talk about some more memories of him when his birthday comes around, because I think that that's always great. And obviously it's more connection for you and insight to me. I just hope that from the opposite side of this podcast, that it is connective, right? And you're not just listening to this going, what in the fuck just happened? All of these episodes, and this is what we're talking about. But this is why I created this podcast. Whatever I connect to, whatever feels right, whatever comes up, that's what we're talking about. And that's what came up today. So that's what I wanted to talk about. So I say all that to say, obviously you feel your feelings. Just don't get stuck there. I read something somewhere that said when someone dies, we never remember all the bad things. You only remember all the good things. It's like your brain automatically shuts off all the bad that person did, anything that ever, upset you about them or how they hurt you or whatever, that's all gone. And you just remember all the good about that person. And so I also think that makes it harder as these anniversaries come around, because your brain automatically just goes to missing them and how wonderful they were. And I'm not saying to cope, you should think of all the bad, but just know that person isn't perfect, right? Don't just sit in, oh my God, I miss them so much and they were so great in all of these ways and da 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 da. When you sit there and you do that to yourself, then you almost miss somebody who didn't exist, because you're only looking at their good and their positives. And if they were here, you would be looking at them through the lens of their weaknesses and the negatives as well, which would even that out and wouldn't supercharge your emotions so much. So that's my advice there. I don't know if it's, good or bad or whatever, but I don't know. I just wanted to share another little piece of me and my journey and my life with you, and let you know that, I don't know. When growing up, everybody would say, oh, life's not fair. And I'd be like, oh my God, shut up. And now that I'm looking back at this and just this conversation that we've had today, I think about how unfair it is that I've lost so many living people. And it's crazy. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand it. I've lost so many people who have died, which death doesn't make sense, but it does make sense. And like I always have said, I lived a lot of life. Whatever age I was at when I say this statement, I've always say whatever age that was. And right now I've lived a lot of life for 37 years old. And I told you on episode 1 of this podcast that more of my story and my journey and me will come out in this podcast, just so that you can get to know me better. And I hope that today has helped you in one way or another. Just connect, right? And when I say that, I mean so that you don't feel like there's something wrong with you or that you're alone, because, maybe you go through your anniversary days, and you are a lot more like me, and you can operate and they don't incapacitate you, and the day is somber, but then you have guilt because you're not crying and sad and you don't process it that way. Or maybe you're the flip. Maybe every year on the anniversary, you just can't seem to get your shit together, right? And it's just a bad day. Some of my anniversaries used to be like that too. Of my dad's death, of my papa's death, of my stepdad's death. They used to be like that too. And sometimes they come back, and they are. And that year anniversary is just hard for me. One thing I can tell you is I never get stuck. I never get stuck in that space and in that headspace, in that place, because my life still goes on. My life is still full, and I still have my kids and people around me who love me that are alive. So I don't allow myself to get stuck in those places. So if there is any advice I can offer you on that side of it, feel into your feelings on the anniversary day. Anything that comes up, anything that you're, going through, all of that, feel into it and give yourself some grace in that moment. I just say, do your absolute best not to start it before the anniversary and not to let it drag on after the anniversary of the death, because all that's doing is hurting you more and the people around you more, right? It's just putting you in this state that's making it harder for you to get up and fight and move forward. And if life is already tough leading up to the anniversary, and this is like the last thing, and fuck, it's the anniversary, that's, again, like I was saying earlier, that's how you get stuck. That's that point where you get stuck and you don't know when you got here and why. We'll be having a conversation. I'll say, how long have you been here? And you'll go, longer than, as long as I can think. As long as I can think I've been in this place. Okay, how old were you, right? And then you'll start to think about it. And then you think about your age. For me, I'd be like, if let's say I was stuck here. And I was 12. Oh my God, you've been stuck for 25 years? That's what I would say to myself if that was the truth, right? It's a really long time for you to be stuck in the same place. What happened when you were 12 that made you stuck here? Oh, my dad died. I lost the only family I ever knew and my favorite brother. And I was stuck with my evil, mean mom. Right? And that set the path for me to live a life where I was angry at everyone. I was mad at him for leaving. I went and searched for, men that would fill that void. This isn't true for me, but I'm just saying, if I was the person who was stuck and broken, those would be the sorts of things I would say. So maybe that's true for you. Maybe that's where you are stuck, is in a death somewhere, or a divorce somewhere, or a friend you lost, or a boyfriend that, you broke up with, and you just haven't been able to get your shit together, so to speak. That's why we're here, And so I hope that this episode has given you just a little more power, a little more fire, a little more I've got this in your soul, because there is a lot more where this came from, and I cannot wait to share it with you on this journey. So remember to give yourself some grace and say yes to yourself more than you say yes to other people. And it's always about progress, not perfection, in everything you do. We'll see you next time.